Well, hello, welcome back to Connections with Stacey Levine Lavely. It is so great to have everyone back, and I am so excited today. I am bringing something that is so near and dear, as all of you know, the real founder of this show is Jagger Lavely. It is so near and dear to his heart. Him and I went to see this play last year. We saw it once. He was so obsessed. We saw it 4 more times at the Hanover Theater. And he could not wait to get back each time. And every time we left, he said, buy the soundtrack. And of course, we got it the first night. And I'm like, we are not buying 4 copies as much as I would like to, own stock in this. I can't. I go, we only have 2 years, so we'll both listen to it and it'll be fine. But seriously, this was such a great play. We go to a lot of plays and we do see a lot of the current plays that have come back, as well as a lot of classics, which, those are always the Lion Kings and the Wicked and things like that. He always loves. But more importantly, this particular one is new. It really touches on themes from today. And I think they're really, really important to discuss. And even more exciting is there is a location in Boston called the Calderwood Pavilion in Boston South End, and they are starting to do more sensory-friendly productions and accessibility. And today I have the real, true pleasure of having Alex Lanati, who is a community and artistic programs manager at the Speakeasy Stage, as well as the assistant director of the Prom, Shira Helena Gitlin. So they are going to be talking a little bit about the venue, a little bit about the show, and I'm just so excited to have them both here. I got so excited, I even wore a tiara. So there you go. Alrighty, so welcome. And first I'm going to throw it to Alex Lanati to tell us a little bit about the venue and about the accessibility things we have going on, and then we're going to dive into the prom. So welcome, Alex. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Stacey. It's really exciting to be here. As Stacey said, my name is Alex Lanati. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Community and Artistic Programs Manager at Speakeasy Stage Company. Speakeasy Stage is a nonprofit professional theater company in Boston South End. Our home is indeed the Calderwood Pavilion at the Boston Center for the Arts, and we have been around for 32 seasons. Our mission is to bring plays and musicals that are new to Boston and that create compelling and lasting conversation. So we do a lot of work that is just out of New York and Chicago and London, and all of it is Boston bold, thought-provoking, and very relevant to issues of today. So we are producing the Prom. It opens this Friday, May 5th, and it runs through June 10th. So we've got quite a while to go. We'll hope that everyone can come see it at the Calderwood. But yes, as Stacey said, in addition to our regularly scheduled 6 performances a week, we do have some specialty accessibility performances scheduled, including on June 10th at 4 o'clock, we will be holding a sensory-friendly performance of this show. We also have 2 open captioned performances and 2 audio described performances. So it is part of our core beliefs that theater is for everyone, and we are working to increase our programming so that that can truly be the case. So it is on the newer end for us. We've been working on adding this programming slowly and steadily over the last year and a half. But now we are consistent in that we have audio description and open captioning at select performances for every production we do, and at least 1 sensory-friendly performance a season.
That's amazing. And it's so needed in this community because, I mean, I can remember when my son was younger, literally having to go to New York to go to anything that was sensory friendly to any great degree. And there was an organization out there called the Theater Development Fund, and they still do the autism friendly performances and things like that. And every year we still do Lion King, we still do Wicked. And it's just great to see this finally coming to Boston. There have been a few things in Boston, some of the bigger houses like Boston Opera House and what have you, but they're so few and far between, and they seem to be like years and years apart. It's not something that's consistent. And I remember for him, it was so hard for him to even like sit in a movie theater. Like I remember at like 4 years old, he was done with theaters. He wanted nothing to do with them. The child watched movies, he watched Broadway shows on YouTube, like all that kind of stuff at the house, but he refused to go into a theater for no reason. There was no like anything. And it just amazed me that, as we started bringing him to these different shows, that he was able to, finally be able to go into a movie or go into a show and be fine with it and all that, to the point that now he's able to actually go to like what would have been one of your neurotypical shows, which is going to be We're Going Saturday. And we're so excited for it. I can't even tell you, we're so pumped. But he's able to do that now, and he never would have been able to without that stepping stone. And for you to provide that bridge for these kids and for these adults who wouldn't necessarily have these kind of opportunities, it's so special and it's so big. And I'm going to come back to you, but right now I do want to bring Shira up and introduce her and have her tell us a little bit about her and her play. And we are so excited. So welcome, Shira. I'm sorry, Alex, did you want to say something?
Just that Shira uses they, them pronouns.
Okay, excellent. Well, I was going to let her say that, but okay. Shira, take it away.
Great. Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Stacy. My name's Shirlena Gitlin. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the assistant director of the Prom. Super excited to be working with Speakeasy again. I have a long history with them, starting back in 2019 when I was their artistic fellow. So it's great to be able to work on the show with them. As an LGBT creator and artist, this show in particular has a lot that is super exciting to me around current events, around acceptance, around love, community. So I'm super excited for folks to get to see this one. It's a real, you're gonna leave with a smile on your face.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many, there's so much raw emotion in it. And I'm sure your production is going to be just as great. You're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry. It's an amazing show. So tell me, how did you decide, do you prefer Shira, Helena?
You just say Shira, that's all good.
Okay. So Shira, so how did you come about like connecting with the Speakeasy stage and, getting into the role that you're in with them?
Yeah, so I, like I mentioned, I've been connected with Speakeasy since 2019. I was their artistic fellow for the 2019-2020 season. And I was actually supposed to assistant direct Bright Star, which was going to go up in April of 2020. And unfortunately, that did not happen. And I've stayed in contact with them quite a bit. Some of the work I do outside of directing is as a gender inclusivity consultant. And so I do a lot of work with theater companies, helping them get used to things like alternative pronouns, or helping them with their casting, or with telling stories about transgender individuals or that involve transgender people. And so Alex and Paul Danielle, who's the artistic director and also the director of the Prom, have brought me in a couple different times to help out with various community initiatives and help build a more equitable programming around gender identity within Speakeasy. And so when the Prom came up, both of them very quickly reached out to me and said, hey, this is perfect. Do you want to come work on this show with us? And so I'm so thrilled to be here and to be working on this one.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love the fact that you did bring up pronouns, because it is something I did want to talk about, because I mean, this generation is much more accepting and understanding of that. And there's a lot more acceptance, really is the word I'm looking for. And I do know that sometimes with some of the older generations, mine included, they don't understand the need for the pronouns. And I think one that really kind of gets them, which is your pronouns, which is the them, they, their, theirs. It really confuses them because they're so busy like having learned the English language in the way that we did, that this is plural. How can one person be plural? Can you speak to that at all? Like how to open that conversation, whether it's with the parent, whether it's with the grandparent, what have you, so that we're able to like have those kind of dialogues with people and really open that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, when thinking and talking about pronouns, it's really important to give yourself a little bit of grace and acceptance of the fact that you're right, not everyone did, grew up using these pronouns. And in fact, I myself, as a 28-year-old, did not grow up using these pronouns. It wasn't until I was in high school and college that people more publicly started using alternative pronouns. But the thing that I think is so important to talk about and to think about, it's kind of twofold. One is the people, right? So if someone's asking you, hey, my name is Mary, but I just want you to call me M, right? Great, that's a nickname. People have no problems with nicknames. Pronouns get a little more complicated because you're right, a lot of people aren't used to using them. But one example I love to give is if you are in a grocery store with a friend and your friend says, hey, look, there goes my high school English teacher. You might say, oh, where did they go? You wouldn't instinctively say, where did he or she go? And you wouldn't assume a gender of the person. Mm-hmm. And so in a lot of cases, you actually have been using they, them as a singular pronoun. And there are cases and examples within literature for hundreds of years of people, including Shakespeare, using they as a singular. And so I think for people who are a little more grammatically minded, digging into that research, digging into the history of those words can be a great way to start to understand why this has become a lot more common now. And the truth is, people have always existed who are gender nonconforming, who are transgender, who might now consider themselves non-binary, use pronouns like they, them. And it feels new because 20 years ago, people didn't feel like they could come out. It wasn't safe to come out. And the words just didn't really exist in the way they do now. So it's less so that it's new and more so that it's accepted, right? Back to that same word. So, it's a great conversation to start opening up and having an open mind about, and understanding that if you're someone who struggles with pronouns, that is totally okay. And to give yourself that time and grace, but to also understand that the world changes, right? People, my grandparents who are, in their 80s and 90s, live a completely different, grew up a completely different way. And yet my grandparents, at least one of them or two of them have gotten, really good at my pronouns and have very much been accepting of me, even if that was something new for them. So it just takes time.
Yeah. And Stacey, can I share? I've learned so much working with Shira. They're incredible at the work they do, both artistically and in their gender education. And two things that have stuck with me as an ally is that we should not put all of the onus on the education and the correction of pronouns on the person who uses gender nonconforming pronouns or the trans individual. So for me, I always try to correct when I hear somebody misgender something. And then the other is that the correct answer to, if you are corrected, is thank you, and then using the correct pronouns rather than making it a big thing and saying, oh, I'm so sorry. It's giving an excuse. The best way to do it is to say thank you and then move right on. So those are two things that Shira taught me.
That's so incredible. And it's so true because people they can make a big deal because they feel so guilty that they said the wrong thing. Da, 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 da. I mean, I don't know, like, do you guys find, or do either of you rather find that since COVID, has it become easier, do you think, or harder in these kind of conversations? Like where people have been isolated for so long, was that like almost like the ability to, I guess, to reset and, be able to kind of learn some of this stuff and then be able to use it a little more appropriately? How do you feel that has kind of affected this piece?
I think the last couple of years in particular have been really interesting and exciting in a lot of ways, because what I have seen in particular is that I don't have numbers on me, but the amount of people that came out as trans in the last 3 years is astounding. And it's because people finally had the opportunity to sit with themselves, by themselves for months on end, and really have to think about themselves and their own identity and their own expression, right? And when you're stuck inside for a year, you can wear whatever you want and no one's going to judge you and no one's going to have thoughts and no one's going to, have feelings about it. And so that's been really great. And on the flip side, the issue around distance, the issue around isolation has also meant that this visibility and this increased the increased visibility of trans people, both in media and on social media, online, has meant that for people who don't have experience with trans people, it does feel like a trend, or it feels like, an onslaught. And so in reality, these are just people living their lives, but there are a group of people who are very vocal about saying that this is, how they don't feel that people should be living their lives this way. And, for various reasons, whether that's a religious or cultural background thing. But at the end of the day, I do think that this time and space has been very healthy for a lot of people figuring these things out. And it's interesting. Something I think about too, like I am a neurodivergent person, and I know a lot of trans people that are neurodivergent or are on the autism spectrum.
Mhm.
And part of the reason for that is that when your brain already works a little bit differently, when it's already wired a little bit differently, the societal ideas of gender as are taught to us don't always make sense, right? Because we're taught that you have to fit in this box or this box. And as someone who's neurodivergent, and I know this is the case for many, many other trans people, but not all, those boxes never really made sense to me. And so I think that that's something interesting too to think about and talk about around the idea of neurodiversity, is that there is quite a bit of overlap between neurodiverse people and people who are gender nonconforming or trans or otherwise exploring that part of their identity.
That's really
Yes.
interesting, Shira. I had not heard that. I've not realized, put those two together. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you said the word putting them in a box and things like that, the first thing that came to my mind was, the conversations right now about, when you're filling out a lot of the government forms, how they have the male, female, and some of your more cutting edge places are adding the non-binary or prefer not to answer, or, however else it's done. But it really kind of speaks to that boxed out kind of feeling. And like you said, and I love how you brought that back to like the spectrum and things like that, because obviously we talk a lot about that on the show, and any kind of special needs and whatnot. And I remember for my son, he's 20 now, and I mean, I had never heard the word autism. I think I knew about Tommy the play and the Who thing, and that's probably what I knew about autism. And I just remember the people from early intervention saying to me, "Oh, we think he has autism," and I just remember, like, I didn't even know what it meant, but I remember running in the bathroom and throwing up and just sitting on the floor for like an hour. I couldn't even go out. I mean, I felt bad for these poor people because they were sitting in my den thinking, what is wrong with this girl? And I just like had tears streaming down my face. Again, had no idea what it was, but that's what it was. And so we went and got him diagnosed. And a week later, the Newsweek article came out. There was like this huge Newsweek cover on autism, and it was in 2004. And it was like literally, like I said, like 9 days after he was diagnosed. And it was suddenly like, okay, I always wanted him to be popular and have the cool things, but I didn't really think autism was going to be one of those. So it was just sort of one of those moments where it's like, finally the light's there. I mean, it's taken years and years and years for people to be able to get the education, both the kids as well as the families and things like that. And I feel that's where we are in the LGBTQ kind of journey as well, is, this has really shown a lot of light on. I mean, it's been around, like you said, for a very, very long time, but I think people are finally opening up their eyes to it, realizing there are so many people on the margins, whether it's special needs, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's Black Lives Matter, things like that, that are just so important. And people are people, and we all have two eyes and two noses. And unless we have something that we don't, we're all the same at the end of the day. And we're all gonna just, return to dust in the end. And, if we can be kind, we can show some compassion along the way. That's the most important thing. And I want to really kind of dive back into the venue and the play, because these are the overarching themes that are there. And I'd really like to, have some conversations, around those, like how this play can open people up again to having these conversations. And I want to talk about the venue too, and how it has created an accessible place for all these different kinds of underserved communities and telling stories. And I think that's so important. So I'll let you guys decide. You people decide.
Yeah, I'll just share.
I always use people's names. So
yeah. So I in my role at Speakeasy, I'm part of the season selection process. So I can share that the reason Speakeasy wanted to do the prom is that not only does it feel enormously relevant and every day more so, when talking about people being their true selves and their community accepting them for that, but it is also a comedy and a musical, and it is fun. And the world is heavy right now, and it has been for a long time. And this is a show that will inspire you, but it's also going to make you laugh. Ultimately, the premise is that there's a young gay woman in a high school in Indiana who wants to bring her girlfriend to the prom, and so the PTA cancels the prom. And these 4 Broadway has-beens decide they're going to go and save the day, but they are preposterous and hilarious, and chaos ensues. And so there's a lot of heart in it, but it is also a really fun time. So that's sort of why we picked it. Yeah, and have you been seeing that in the rehearsal room, Shira?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think this cast in particular is so funny. We have some real Boston mainstays in this cast that it's been really great because we have some older actors who are really established in Boston and have been doing this work for a long time, and then we actually have a lot of college students and just out of college students playing the high school students, and so it's been really great to see the relationships being built between those 2 generations as well. And a lot of the, there's a lot of different members of the LGBT community within the cast also, which is great. And so we've gotten to really share not only stories about our own proms and about our own experiences, but also ways in which that we've connected to this show and ways in which we find it beautiful and empowering, but also absolutely hilarious. I mean, there are moments in this play where you cannot stop laughing for 5 minutes straight. And it's just impeccably well written when it comes to comedy.
Yeah, and the show weaves all the way through that. Like there's, when there's a down moment, there's an up moment that really kind of, brings you along and kind of gets you out of that space. And I am so excited to see your version. I just can't wait. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing because it's so much amazing content. And you really do leave the show really satisfied because it's not just, yeah, I laughed, or yeah, I cried, or yeah, I felt this. It's you just feel so many different emotions. It's picking up fish hooks. You can't just pick up one. Everything's going to come up with it. And it just, I remember bawling my eyes out, laughing my head off. It was just everything. And it's so great. And I just want so many people to get out there and see it because supporting, your Speakeasy stage is really, like we had talked about, Alex and I talked on the phone about bringing stories to life. So can you tell me a little bit more about what other kind of stories that you bring, and tell us a little bit about some of the history of Speakeasy as far as, getting to this point where you're able to bring alternate voices to the stage?
Absolutely. Yes. So Speakeasy's mission at its core is about creating conversations. And the most interesting conversations to have are those that are affecting our community right now. So what we do is plays and musicals that have something to say, the issues of the day, that explore communities and uplift voices that are not usually given a platform. And it's a wide range of serious plays, funny musicals, funny plays, serious musicals, everything in between. But the goal is always to tell stories authentically and with heart and compassion. We are a people first company for sure, both in the stories we tell and in how we interact with our own artists and those who work with us. Is ultimately we are working together to build something beautiful, and we want folks to come to the theater and feel something, leave and want to talk about it, whether it be because they saw their own experiences on the stage or they've seen a perspective they had no idea existed before. So we do a little bit of everything. We actually just announced our next season, so I encourage folks to check that out at speakeasystage.com. But we've got our season runs usually from September to May. So the Prom is our final show of this season. Then we'll take a few months off and then kick off another season full of amazing plays and musicals that will all continue to push the boundaries and get people talking.
No, do you have subscriptions to your seasons?
We do have subscriptions available now. And then our single tickets will go on sale later this summer.
Okay, great. Now, quick question for you. How is parking down in your area, especially for people who, do have accessibility issues?
Yes, I will be honest, parking is a challenge in downtown Boston. There are a couple of parking lots nearby. We have all of our information on our website that points folks to a few different places. As specifically for the sensory friendly performance, I can give some very specific parking that might, like some free parking suggestions for our sensory friendly. Is it all right if I transition into that?
Absolutely.
So like I said before, it's June 10th at 4 p.m. And we're actually working with Rhoda Bernard, who is the managing director of the Berkeley Institute for Accessible Arts Education. She is an incredible supporter of the arts and an amazing consultant, and she is making sure that we do this well. And so for those who are unfamiliar, a sensory friendly performance is another term for it is a relaxed performance, because the main difference is in expectations. We have relaxed theater etiquette so that folks can feel free to talk, to come and go if they need to vocalize, and there will be no judgment. So while they are primarily for those with sensory sensitivities, there are an enormous host of communities that benefit from a relaxed theater environment. In addition, we will provide resources ahead of time, including information about parking, so that nothing is a surprise day of. Folks know exactly what they're going to experience when they get to the theater. We will also provide fidget materials and a quiet room if folks need to step away and still want to be able to watch a live cast of the show so they don't miss anything. Our ushers and our cast will be trained to help if folks need any assistance. And we will adjust some of the production elements so that the house lights will always stay on a little bit and the audio cues will be a little softer, so that it's just a more gentle and comfortable experience for all. So yes, so that is our sensory friendly performance on June 10th. We do have a pay what you wish structure that starts at $10 per ticket. All the information is on our website.
Okay, perfect. And I do want to mention for people who regularly watch the show, we did do a episode with Rhoda. Actually, it was episode 4, I believe, for Berkeley for their autism inclusion music program and special needs also. So please check that out as well, because that was fantastic. So I know these lovely people, Alex and Shira, have so much to do today. So we had to actually move this back a little bit so Shira can, get on set and make sure everything is amazing for everyone this weekend. And as they said, it's going to be going from, I just want to get the dates correct, May 5th, which is Friday, through June 10th. Please join us, especially families who don't usually go to theater and are afraid to because their kids or their adults may not feel comfortable. This is going to be an amazing experience. We're going, like I said, to the real one on May 6th, and we're also going to be at the sensory friendly, because I think it's such an important thing to support everyone and support this cast. And knowing Jagger will probably be there 10 more times, but that's a whole different story. So thank you. Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Alex and Sheriff, for joining me today on Connections. Have a great week, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.